Hello, Mac.
How are you?
Yeah, I wanted to let you know I'm what I call liquid.
Hmm.
I accepted the possibility of doing an experiment where I feel sad and create at the same time.
Hmm.
It came out of it came out of this discovery that I have been seeing grieving and creating as mutually exclusive. I can't create until I've grieved, and I can't grieve because I want to create. And so this is where this experiment came from, and it's been a very wet day
Hmm.
here in Nicole world, and I also feel a little bit pissed off that I'm to notice how I'm pulling it together to be here.
Hmm.
Yeah, and which I think is a great, it's this is a great this is great because this is what this call is about. It's about becoming more radically honest, and yeah, and this experiment is kind of open space for me to be more radically honest about how heartbroken I am about the world, about
Hmm.
how my life is gone, about how little
Hmm.
time I probably have left to create what I want to create. And this is where you come in. This is where my my I don't know, enthusiasm to come into a radical honesty training. And this, like, 4 years ago, I think, or something like that, I first reached out to you with this question of what would it take for a radical honesty training to exist in the home base that I had at the time, which was Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And yeah, and now something like 3.5, 4 years later, here we are because I reached out again, and I with this, yeah, this same flavor of impulse to experience the kinds of spaces you deliver as a radical honesty trainer.
Hmm.
And and yeah, and then we had this proposal negotiation, and we ended up with this 5 weeks, 2 hours a week with you, and I'll do a thing on the side where a practice space, and maybe people who can't come to the space with you for whatever reason can come to this practice space, and I can already start to get the hang of delivering the kinds of experiments that you bring to empower people to become more radically honest with
Hmm.
themselves and each other. And yeah, I wanted this call with you to hear more from you because I'm scared that people who just see your name and in the invitation and have no idea about the radical honesty game world that was seeded by Brad Blanton. And I've been reading his book, and I've had it for a long time, and it's been cracking me open in ways that I just really welcome. And
Hmm.
they're pretty painful sometimes, and I'm okay with that because I want to feel the pain of being alive so that I can really create in reality. And I see this over and over. I saw it in your on your website. Is like Michael Allen Kolb is committed to, and it was like blah blah blah, to be in reality or something like that. And I was just like,
Hmm.
oh, this is really what I want. I want to be in reality. So, will you share about, like, tell the legend of how you became a radical honesty trainer?
Yeah, I'll share my story. And I'm a bit wary about trying to sell a legend or something like that. So we'll try to just be honest um about my personal journey so far.
Yeah, perfect.
Um, so I I had been doing like a lot of yoga and Zen Buddhism for about 7 or 8 years when I was introduced to radical honesty in 2013, so just about 11 years ago. And at that time I had gained a whole lot of awareness about who I was inside. And I'd cultivated also a lot of peace in my own mind and in my nervous system and stuff because of all the time that I spent practicing yoga asanas and and doing zazen, Zen meditation. But I also was becoming a big recluse. So I was spending more and more time by myself all of the time, because that was the only place that I could maintain that level of um, inner peace that I had cultivated. In other words, as soon as I went out into the world and made contact with other people, all of my typical like ways of being kind of phony resurfaced. And that became really, really frustrating to me. I noticed how I was trying to sell this image of a guy who was on the enlightenment path, this guy who was like above, typical petty, like human pettiness. And some people were buying it and even giving me the feedback that I was wanting, which was what an elevated, wonderful, whatever kind of person I was. But whenever I would get that feedback, it felt shitty. It felt icky, right? Because I knew that I was being phony. I was selling a false identity. And so then when someone invited me, said, "Hey, let's go to this radical honesty space," just the name, I was like, "Oh shit, that could be something that would help me um, come out of my shell and like be authentic finally." Because I think I had this idea that like I know who I am. I just don't know how to be the real me when other people are around because I care too much what you think, what others think, or something. I wasn't quite sure. Anyway, it was pretty terrifying for me at first to even just to be in that space, like, just in the context of saying now we're going to be more honest with each other. Boom, all of this kind of like tension and fear came up for me. And it took a little while for me to kind of settle into sharing more and more about myself, little by little, week to week. But over time, like so many of those worries kind of settled down. I learned over time to to let the good, the bad, and the ugly out rather than just trying to put forth this kind of perfect image all of the time. And so the biggest benefit that I got as a participant was kind of the freedom of like relaxing into myself and centering my self-image more in who I was rather than who I want you to think that I am.
Yeah.
And then I became a trainer a few years later and have been leading workshops and doing coaching for the past 6 or 7 years, which has also been like a massive like growth experience. Um, yeah, I don't think I want to get into any of that. We'll just like focus on what it was like for me as a participant. But yeah, those are the biggest things, the like the freedom of the self-expression, the relaxed way of being. Um, when I when I like I'm not so focused on whether you like me or not, what you think about me. I'm more focused on am I in integrity with myself? Am I being like my authentic self and stuff? And then you can like me or not, but like I actually like myself more when I'm being real. And that consequently leads to like more deep and real and authentic connections with other people, which are more nourishing than the like kind of fake, like, oh, I like the image that you're selling. Then you're receiving love and appreciation for people, but not really. It's like kind of the mask or the kind of phony self that is receiving that, not the kind of inner authentic self. So that's kind of my perspective. And when I'm leading radical honesty spaces, I kind of have that hope for the participants and kind of have that lens through which I see things.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I noticed that when you got to the part about how it's been as a trainer and and you and you said something about it and then you chose this way, I'm kind of still at that crossroads where I'm like, please say something about how that's continued for you as a trainer, because
Mm.
I just I get that, being a participant and receiving and being the one kind of on the receiving end and then shifting into the one who's delivering
Hmm.
so that others can receive. It's like, I don't know, you go from your, I don't know, your, you go from this level to, and then there's a whole nother level or a whole nother,
Yeah.
level makes it seem hierarchical, but it is, I think, in a
No, yeah, so yeah, I would definitely speak to that. So I think when you're coming as a participant, at least my hope is that you're there to do your own personal work, to like look inside and see what's going on with you and be kind of expressive about that.
yeah,
And then if you're leading any group or being, a helper of any kind, therapist or coach or whatever, your job is to hold space and to not to be there to do your own inner work and stuff. So like making that transition for me of like I'm coming to this space in order to like really, get what I can from this space. I'm looking inward and like, expressing myself and stuff and not worrying so much about other people because I'm there to do my own work. But then once you become like a leader of the group, the facilitator, it's the reverse, right? Then you're like, okay, I'm here for others. I'm not here for myself. So making that shift was a big, growth opportunity for me. And then what I also had in mind was I'm one of the founders of the Radical Honesty Institute. So then we're like becoming trainers of new trainers and stuff like that, which has also been like a huge um, growth experience for me.
yeah. I, I love that. I love the kind of picture of trainers among trainers, like
Hmm.
trainers among trainers, even where then this whole like the either or of, am I here to do my personal work or am I here to empower other people to do their personal work, kind
Right.
of starts to become, we're here to do our personal work and empower each other to do our personal work. And
Hmm.
and in a way, this is where I'm coming from as a possibility management, Rage Club space holder, Fear Club space holder, Money Club space holder, Emotional Healing Process space holder, being with other possibility managers who deliver spaces, including the big ones in possibility management or Expand the Box, and then Possibility Labs, which have a whole bunch of different flavors. And to be to I'm in these spaces more and more as a collaborative space holder, as a leader with other leaders. And yet I fall into this following thing.
Hmm.
And I fall into this, I have my shit together, I'm the leader, and I see others, get trapped in a new box, in a new
Hmm.
identity, and then start to be automatic from there. And yeah, in a way, this is why I'm putting myself in the participant uh, role identity in your space, partly because I've never received uh, like radical honesty experiments from anyone but myself and other possibility managers. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, there's this whole other world of radical honesty where you've been playing, where other trainers have been training up, and and I've had a little bit of an in on it by getting your
Hmm.
newsletters for the last 3 or 4 years, and yeah, just so people who don't know the newsletter, like each newsletter's, there's an article by one of the trainers, and and then there's the part about where all the trainings are happening, and so reading from these radical honesty trainers about the the next steps they're taking, and then looking back, there's a lot of sharing about kind of how it's been. I remember you and a former partner, and I think someone who also became a trainer, is becoming one,
Hmm.
were sharing about how it went while you were learning to be radically honest in your relational space, and I was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And it really, it broke my heart because I just thought,
Mhm.
if I had had any kind of, I don't know, distinction or gold of the lived experience coming into my world during the time that I was married, I, I mean, I was, it's like, I've always had this, I am honest.
Mhm.
It's, I've always had like this principle of authenticity working through me in my life. And yet there are times I just shut it down. Like you were saying
Mhm.
about, I care what people think of me, and I don't want to be rejected or hated. Or, I mean, I remember my dad telling me when I was something like 14 or 15 years old, he's like, Nikki, you care too much what people are thinking about you, and they're probably not thinking about you as much as you think they are. And I was relieved a little bit, but I was also incensed, like, how are so few people thinking about me? Like,
Yeah.
the fuck world,
People
like,
should really care.
yeah, people should care. And how I
Yeah.
came to relate to that was just to kind of sink into this, the longer human story of how really biologically we are each built to have the eyes of 100 villagers
Mm.
watching us grow up, and being there, empowering us to become what we are. And instead, I grew up with all these frowny faces around me trying to manipulate me and behavior modify me into doing what they wanted, how being
Yeah.
what they wanted me to be. And I've been resisting that my whole life to the best of
Yeah.
my ability, because I've been also conditioned to fear that and adjust to that. And so this is what I'm really trying to get myself out of, the prison that I internalized
Hmm.
while I was younger, and kept internalizing, and yeah, like modifying. I also had about a 7-year long yoga meditation phase
Hmm.
where I had this experience you describe. As soon as I got out of the meditation room, I something could happen, and my jar, what had become a clear jar of water through sitting,
Hmm.
just got shook up, and I was muddy bog water again.
Yeah.
Anyway, so possibility management has been
I like
really
that
working
image.
for me to get the murk out of the bog water, or at least,
Hmm.
and really what I'm starting to do more and more is walk around with my jar and be like, this is how it is for me right now. And there's this being who can who can tell you about it. And yet, oh my God, I just spring up into my head again and again and again to put on this show that you're talking about, the Nicole show. That's honestly, I'm pretty good at. And I don't want to be good at that. I want to be here with people, and I want to be
Yeah.
here on this earth with people, because how people have been doing things from that kind of removed from reality head show is
Hmm.
costing literally hundreds of species a day are becoming
Mm.
extinct through the consequences of human activity. And I have 4 children. I will leave this planet to them. And before I go, I want to be able to be with my children in a way where maybe I could get to be being to being with them instead of mother to child, or even like
Mm.
adult mother to adult child, with still all the bullshit that can happen. Somehow I want to have that experience with these 4 glorious beings that I happen to be the vessel through which they came into this life. And I also want to be able to say to them, I did everything I could. And most of it was changing this, regenerating this, so that I could come out in the world and be a regenerative force, like join the regenerative, I don't know, be somehow on the earth regeneration team.
Mm,
And all I can do then is like hand over to them whatever they say they want from whatever toolkit. I can be like, here's your inheritance. Because
mm,
I'm not probably going to have a penny to pass on. And God, like, I don't know, what people do with money is not always empowering themselves. And yeah, and this really kind of brings me full circle back to this clarity that I've been getting reading Brad's book, this clarity that I have literally been killing myself by lying.
mm. Well, I imagine I recognize and can identify with your frustration there. Because like I mentioned, that was something that I was experiencing too. So I am hoping that with your, kind of first foray into radical honesty with this 5 week course that you'll find something in there that is a relief, a release, a way to kind of relax into who you are, relax into social situations, relax into um, authentic kinds of relating with other people. And when I say relax, I don't mean that it will always be easy. I think on the contrary, I suppose what I mean is leaning into or accepting that that is also part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah, when you say that, like I notice that I already start doing it and start noticing how still there was this tension. I think that really comes from this way that I use my fear unconsciously still to keep the show, hold it together,
Hmm.
to be something that you or other people are gonna want or yeah, somehow say yes to.
Hmm.
And it's really it's I don't want it to be about the package, Nicole. I would love for people to say yes to the love that comes through me, the empowerment that comes through me, the clarity that comes through me, the stand I am for teamwork, like for teamwork, for humans to figure out teamwork.
Mm.
And yeah, still like, yeah, I love it. Yes, please, to
Mm.
spaces where I can really just drop and relax and uh,
Yeah.
let myself be, let myself and let other people be what they are, how they are, when they are.
So on the very first call, we're gonna look at what we call just simply pretending, the masks that we wear, the way that we put on the Nicole show or the Mac show or whatever, and simply play with being honest about that. What is it that we're trying to sell? How is it that we're trying to sell it? Kind of like pulling the curtain back behind
See the
the
wizard
show.
behind the curtain.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, and then from there, and so that'll kind of like give us some perspective on what's going on and how we're doing it and stuff, and hopefully inspire us to do that a little bit less. And then each week we'll learn some new skills and we'll play some games and stuff. And ideally, people will be kind of leaning into this, showing a little bit more of yourself, hopefully building some trust and some rapport so that we can go deeper. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I noticed that when I was inviting people to the Facebook event,
Hmm.
I'm like, I have like thousands of Facebook friends, and coming from this radical honesty experiment that I've created for myself and that I've geared up also for myself lately through doing this with you, I started to notice like, wow, I want this person to come because I want to be in a space where the agreement is, yes, we will be radically honest with each other because I have things I've been holding back from them. And some
Mm,
of them are things that I don't want to be holding back from them. Some of them are things that I'm terrified to not hold back from them. And I just wonder what kind of, what kind of consequences that creates, because it's like this thing about don't say anything unless it's going to be nice
mhm.
thing. Like there was a saying that, I'm
Yeah.
garbled, but I think we all know it. And
You don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
yeah, and yet there's these very not nice things that are actually that could change things for somebody in a way that would really work for them. I hold those back too
Mm,
because I'm not practiced at it. So I want to
hmm.
I want to practice, and I want people where I'm not just practicing with, this person who I'll never see again, or like I'll practice with whoever I can practice with. And
Yeah.
I just I long to have more radical honesty happening in the relational spaces with the people I already know I love and I already know
Hmm.
are already in my world kind of till the end, through being family or through being
Yeah.
somehow unget rid ofable.
And get rid of them all. I
Yeah.
like that.
By my
Yeah, I
own
want to
wanting it that way. Yeah.
yeah, I want to comment on one thing that you said a moment ago about saying something to someone that might like change their life or be important to them in some way. And I think I am more interested typically in the motivation to say the thing. In other words, the thing itself might be important, but what is going on inside of you that has this kind of like desperate drive to share this person? And it might be just guessing, like, I really care. I imagine you're fucking up your life and it hurts me and I want to help, right? Something like that. Oftentimes,
Definitely something
sharing the motivation and your emotional experience that's driving the behavior of wanting to say this thing to the person is
yeah,
often more important and more powerful and better for the relationship than just saying the thing. So we're going to be looking at all of those different
yeah,
layers too. And one of the things that we'll come to recognize is that most of our behaviors are reactive behaviors driven by emotional experience that goes unrecognized and kind of unconscious. So
yeah,
we want to look at those emotional experiences that are driving all of the behaviors rather than just focusing at the behavioral level. And
yeah,
so when we're talking about being radically honest, it's a whole lot less of the stuff that's going on in the mind. In other words, it's not really about the content of what we're saying and stuff.
yeah,
It's really about being honest about the deeper kind of experience that I'm having. And that's going to take a little bit of skills to start kind of peeling back some layers to see what's going on inside of us.
yeah, yeah,
Because we're trained to kind of operate at this kind of social contract level. We're playing, I'm playing the part of, good son or brother or whatever. I'm playing the part of good friend, and I lose sight of what's actually going on inside of me because all of my focus is on playing the role that I have bought into and I'm now trying to sell to you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really want to put my attention there because, there are sometimes these, and it's wild because I'll have repeated experiences of someone and I'll have this thing and I'll be like, no, you can't, no, don't, no, no. And then I'll start to not want to be with them.
Hmm.
And then I'll
Yeah.
see them again and I'll be like, I'm doing this thing where I don't say this thing because I don't want to make this, like, I don't want to fuck it up with you, and not saying it, I'm kind of fucking it up with you by not saying
Yeah.
it. And I
Yeah.
just don't know what to do now.
Right. Yeah.
Except sometimes just be like, okay, I have something and I'm scared me saying it is going to fuck things up with you, and me not saying it is fucking things up with you. So
Yeah,
here it is, and I want to put it in on the table, not into the person, you know?
right.
And yet sometimes there's just like, ugh. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, oh fuck, that's not what I was going for.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you're saying. I think in order to keep the peace, we keep the distance. And then what we end up with is a distant peace, you
Yeah,
know, rather than a real relationship.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's, I mean, some of where I'm coming from is I in December moved to live with my mother, who's in her quite elder years. She's 82, and she needs someone around. And out of my
Hmm.
siblings, out of our whole extended family, I'm available, and I can do my work from anywhere. So here I wanted to come, and because of what I have figured out over the last 4 years using possibility management, I could even come and not just be hooked and start being like, fuck, I got to get out of here. I can't do this
Mm.
with you. I actually started being able to fall in love with her. And yet I'm in this peaceful distance thing.
Hmm.
And I'm, I don't know. We don't have a lot of time, she and I. And
Yeah.
I don't know if she will come. I've invited her, and I don't know if she says yes, how much she would like be, want to or be able to participate. And yet,
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, somehow this like this finish line up ahead somehow is really starting to work on me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for this time, and yeah, thank you for your encouragement and enthusiasm and participation to create this experimental series. And
Yeah.
I
Thanks.
really look forward
Thanks
to it.
for, yeah. Thanks for taking the initiative to reaching out to me again, making a suggestion, and for doing the promo.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're
All
making
right.
it so easy. I just love it. Cool.
All right.
All right, we'll be
See.
in touch.
All right. Have a good day. Talk
Thanks.
to you soon.
You